Well, welcome everybody to the Algarve International Circuit, very close to the Atlantic coast in the Algarve region of Portugal. For round 6 of this year's Michelin Le Mans Cup, it will all come down to one more race, 2 hours, that takes place early tomorrow morning. So that is in stark contrast to all of the other bread and butter 2-hour races this year that have been Saturday evening affairs. And an early look ahead of this GT3 session, which will be for 15 minutes at the number 2 car, the car that we now know as a team can't win the championship, but Nicolas Leutwiler, who drives the number 2 car, can very definitely be the drivers' champion for 2021 and the Michelin Le Mans Cup. My name's Johnny Palmer, joined again by Graham Goodwin as we look ahead to 2 separate qualifying sessions then, the first for GTs as mentioned, and then the LMP3s after that.
Good afternoon everybody. A beautiful afternoon here in Portugal, and Nicky Leutwiler just really needs to finish the race tomorrow to secure that championship. But any kind of major drama, and there could be distinctly major dramas in the Drivers' Championship. Team Championship, as Johnny says, are already gone, but the other 2 cars that are here present this afternoon both have drivers aboard that could challenge Nicky Leutwiler for that championship win.
Yeah, and the way that things have worked to this point, actually all 4 drivers at the top of the championship are on different amounts of points, but Graham's quite right in that they share cars, so in effect Julian Andlauer, for example, cannot be the drivers' champion because he will be awarded the same amount of points as Nicky Leutwiler, which would secure the championship for the Swiss. So we do have to take that into account as well. PZ Aubera Zurichsee stamped across the side of that Porsche because that is Nicky Leutwiler's Porsche dealership back in his homeland of Switzerland. And it's a rather complicated name. It also includes the TF Sport bit of it as well, which is the team that prepares that car. TFT, not TF Sport, thank you. No, you're right to point that out. TFT is a completely different entity from Tom Ferrier's outfit, who we will be seeing. And
not Swiss.
Congratulations to Tom for getting him a second pole position today in the European Le Mans Series.
Absolutely.
And Tom Ferrier is not Swiss, as you quite rightly point out. These cars are on Michelin tyres. That's doesn't need to be explained because it's the Michelin Le Mans Cup after all. And this will be, I think, the 6th season that GT cars have been part of the championship that began in 2016. The following year, we had LMP3s exploding really into life as part of this series as well. And it's on the up and up. We had a very spectacular week of Road to Le Mans racing in August. The Thursday race, which was a crazy affair, safety car affected, and then the Saturday morning one as well. And of course there were half championship points on offer for each of those races. Back to the standard 25 points on offer for each of the classes here in the Algarve.
Absolutely, and that's history, and we can call it history now with the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the GT3 Cup before then. That's where Tom Ferrier did come into it, because it was TF Sport that won the first title with Sally Yolok and Ewan Hankey aboard an Aston Martin. And the great news we received here yesterday in Portugal is that we already can say that will be 2 Aston Martins to join the championship next year, with Bullet Racing initially planned to bring a Bentley before COVID intervened, but have now signed a partnership based not so very far from where we are in Marbella. Bullet Racing, and they will be the official partners of Aston Martin Racing in this region, handling all sorts of events, car sales, etc., but not least of which will be a 2-car effort in the Michelin Le Mans Cup in 2022 with 2 Aston Martin Vantage GT3s, including one, Johnny, that I suspect you've commentated on already, because the car that took the overall win around the Nürburgring made its way from that race earlier this year to Bullet Racing to be the first of their 2 cars. So it's already got winning form.
Excellent.
So great to see that that's already some commitment. I'm sure we've got more to come in the weeks and months that follow. There's a long time till we can start talking about entry lists for next season. Here, we're still talking about the potential for drivers' titles. And right now, we're going to be talking about the potential for a pole-setting lap. Who is it going to be, and who is going to be aboard the car? It's going to be Gabriele Lancieri is aboard the number 8 Iron Lynx car. It is Manuel Agosta that's going to be aboard the number 9 car, and it will be Nicky Leutwiler in the number 2 Porsche.
calendar for the new season was announced last month at the Spa-Francorchamps meeting, and some of the usual favourites back on the bill, but with the inclusion of Imola, which will be round 2 next year, so a return for this championship to Emilia-Romagna, and also to the Hungaroring. Now, the Michelin Le Mans Cup has never been to Hungary before, so that was definitely a first, and I'm really interested to see how this championship will fit on what is a very tight technical circuit, one racing line, but I still think there's the opportunity to pass, particularly when the P3s catch up with GT traffic.
And we get to the LMP3 session later, which will be, how can we put this, significantly busier than this one. And interested to talk to the teams, the drivers, some of the additional drivers we've got here this weekend. Lots of news from the paddock this weekend of drivers taking a look at these cars, look at this championship, and lots of people say much the same thing, which is technically, in strategic terms, this is a really tough championship to come out there and win and thrive at. Not least because there have been shifting sands in this championship this year, but they have changed the rule book more than once this year to try to simplify matters. I don't think it's always worked that way. It's sometimes been a pretty tough one for us to actually work out just exactly what a team or two are trying to achieve. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's never anything less than absolutely dramatic. 2-hour race format really suits this mix between the GT3 cars and the LMP3s, with pit stops, driver changes, fueling, all into the mix for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, as we see the first of the 3 cars cross the line to start its first flying lap, and it will be Gabriele Lancieri in the white accented number 8 car ahead of Manuel Agostner.
Talking about sort of kind of, you've been skirting around the edge of the topic in that driver changes have had to happen from a team's perspective, because you can select a bronze, but they may be a very, very good bronze and start to perform rather too well. And there are penalties then enforced within the regulations and as part of the race when they get to the pit stops. They have to take longer pit stops based on average lap times. And teams have seen ways around that by altering their driver lineup accordingly. The reason why it's so hotly contested is because there's a massive prize that's on offer for next year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is an automatic invitation for the champions. Now, we already know...
In GT,
but not in LMP3, correct. So, if anything, the GT3 driver market has to be so much more heavily policed, and Iron Lynx has still achieved an automatic invitation for next year's Le Mans. So, the goal has been very much achieved, but it's been a kind of unconventional way of getting there, if you like. And the teams might make a move thinking they found a loophole, a legal one at that, but then that has to be closed within the regulations as soon as possible. So it's been an interesting kind of cat and mouse chase to follow this year.
And I think where everybody's playing catch up, that's teams and organisers both, is not losing track of the fact this is a development series. And what that means is you need to find space for a variety of different colours of the same colouring book, if you like. That, you need to find space for teams to grow. You need to find time for the gentlemen drivers and the lady drivers, for that matter, that are here in this series to boost their skill levels and their confidence levels as we get the first of the times come through. It's a 1:48.2 from Gabriele Lancieri. It's Manuel Agostner with a 1:51.2 behind, but those times will continue to come down as Nicky Lertweiler comes to complete his first lap, and that is a non-representative. That will be Nicky giving himself plenty of space to have a crack. It's a 1:59 from Nicky. And this is the problem, I guess, that the driver ranking system doles out to a race or championship organiser, that there are very many different shades of bronze and very different levels of shininess of silver. And we're in an era at the moment, Johnny, with, I'll be blunt, the FIA having not gripped that, championships are now having to grip it.
Well, I think in bronze, there is the biggest span in ability, because it's a real kind of catch-all category in the precious metal rating system. You have platinum, and when you compare a platinum driver to a gold driver, you're talking thousandths of seconds and sometimes tenths of seconds, but not really. I mean, they're in the very much the top 2 to 3%. Silver rated drivers, again, you can catch them on the up and up, so you get them before they're really well known and before they get a key title. But bronze, you can have someone who's lapping maybe 5 seconds quicker than another bronze, and it's about driver selection there. and a real grey area in that bronze pool.
Absolutely. There is dialogue underway between organisers, between the teams right now about some of the issues that this is actually doling out. And I think we are going to see change for the good, whether or not that comes from the system, the core system being reformed, or whether or not that's an overlay in terms of the way in which those gradings are viewed on a championship by championship level, or by a change in the regulations to reflect market realities. I think there's you do well in this paddock to find people that disagree that some change is required, and hopefully that's a change for the good, because what we don't want to see is people coming and spending their precious resource and feeling as if they're not getting a fair crack of the whip.
Yes.
But we equally well do want to see an opportunity and a door open to young talent being able to thrive, but more than that, to develop a career path that is not restricted by regulation. It should be restricted by the marketplace, it should be restricted by their ability, it should be restricted by all of those things, but the one thing it should not be restricted by, you can't race here because you're too good.
Yeah, because you're denying the championship future talent, therefore, just because it doesn't necessarily fit into the correct mould. Anyway, let's not detract from this particular session, because Gabriele Lancieri is at the moment fastest and set to improve again. This is the beauty of the bronze sessions, because you can only be bronze to be taking part in qualifying. That is the case in GT3 and in LMP3, and Lancieri therefore is getting quicker and quicker. 143.549 is where he stands at the moment, but set to improve again. Nicky Leutwiler has taken a bit of time to get to the Boyle, but is now second fastest and only a quarter of a second slower in the number 2 PZ Obeira Zürichsee Porsche. And then it's Manuela Gosner. She has not put in a reflective lap time yet of ability, I would say, looking for a 143, probably similar to what's been set already, or a low 144. And at the moment, Gosner setting banker laps. That's a better one, though. 146.002 within 3 seconds now of Leutwiler's time in her number 9 Iron Lynx Ferrari.
Leutwiler comes through. It's another improved lap from Lancieri. And no improvement there from Nicky Leutwiler. So that gap comes out just a little. But as we know, Johnny, as we're past halfway through this 15-minute session, Dorian Pan, we just had a quick shot off. Not that gentleman, that's not Dorian Pan. That's the TFT racing guys. But that we know that the pattern that tends to be generated by this qualifying session is constant improvement through the session. Quite like that at the moment. What we've got, because there's space on track for them to do it, is what we're seeing is the drivers putting in a quick one, maybe relaxing a little, going again.
Yeah, okay. Well, that gives the tyres a bit more life potentially, because you're allowing a second heat cycle to be worked through the rubber. But this is a very durable compound produced by Michelin. No qualifying tyre, they're still qualifying on their race tyre, but the initial few layers of that rubber, very responsive during a qualifying session. And as you eat away at that, obviously that higher performance tyre will start to just ebb away very slightly. So there is a time limit here. I wouldn't have thought you'll get to the end of the time limit within the 15 minutes necessarily. So still room for improvement, as Gabriele Lancieri has just proved there with a 143.0, the best time so far of the session. So 2 absolute bests on the way there through, although I noticed that the last lap doesn't necessarily tally with the best time.
No,
so
it doesn't. Maybe he's lost that
slightly
lap.
Misleading.
He might have lost that lap.
Good point.
So if you're joining us for the first time this season, where have you been? I think is the first thing. Trust me, wait another 15 minutes, you'll see why this gets to be very intriguing. Yes, there are 3 GT3 cars here, there's significantly more LMP3 cars, and the ladies and gentlemen that pedal these GT cars will be thrust into the middle of that pack during this racing. A bit like if you put blueberries in some natural yogurt and a blender. It's a bit like that, isn't it? And what you end up with is something altogether more tasty than what you started with. It is a fantastic series. Has drawn, I know, an admiring audience online, many of whom are watching in now, and you're very welcome, everybody around the world, and lots of whom engage with us on social media. So stick with it. what we're seeing here are 3 drivers trying very hard. What you're about to see in just about, 10 minutes' time is significantly more of them that are going to be, I think, significantly more dramatic when we get the LMP3 cars out there at the moment.
Yeah, because track position will be all more important, and also where you are on the track when the checker flag is about to fly as well. That's less so the case because there's just ample room out there for Gabrielli, for Nicholas and for Manuela to kind of pick their spot and go for a quick one, and that's exactly what Lancieri's done again, Graham.
Under 143 for the first time. It's 142.936, 5.5 tenths now ahead of Nicky Lertweiler, who is on broadly the same kind of pace here. I think can close that gap just a little. Didn't do it there. A poor third sector on that lap from Nicky Lertweiler. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that he could pluck something out of thin air here at the end of this session. We've seen it more than once, haven't we? Manuela Gosner, she's improving her times in the 145s at the moment. She's about 2 seconds off Lancieri. We've got Dorian Pat aboard that car with her. It's a very quick young lady indeed for tomorrow's 2-hour race.
So 142.936 is Lancieri's latest effort. He's just over half a second faster than Nicky Lertweiler's Porsche, which is exiting turn 5 now and beginning the big climb up past the rotunda, through the little left-hand kink at turn 6, then a right-hand kink at 7, but that's more of a blend of the throttle, and then you hit the brakes hard to head through turn 8. Such an important corner that, because you're not only turning through pretty much a hairpin, but wanting the traction and the grit as much as possible to haul your way up the hill and then down the other side into turn 9. 10 and 11, another high point on the circuit before you plummet down through the left-hander at turn 12, and the Porsche then will whip by up the hill to the top shelf, if you like, turn 13 and 14 along the ridge, and then through the right-hander at 14, downhill again. There isn't really a moment's peace around this 4.6 kilometre circuit, constantly turning the wheel. And when you get to the race, there are so many blind corners as well that you have to be so heavily reliant on marshal indication that the track ahead of you is clear for racing.
Across the line comes Nicky Lertweiler. It was 5.5 tenths last time. He does not improve that time. I think he's going to get traffic here because I think he's catching Manuela Gosner on track here. So he may well not get a clear lap with under 2 minutes to go. He should get this lap and one more, should he decide that he requires it. Is indeed closing in on the number 9 car. And Jerry, meanwhile, has not improved his time. It's 0.55 of a second is the gap between the top two. Manuela Gosner didn't improve last time around either. It is for the bronze-ranked Iron Dame. Time to kind of crack on. So Manuela has had time in European Le Mans Series in the successful Iron Dames car, moves to Michelin Le Mans Cup this year alongside Dorian Pan.
So Gosner having produced a 145.0 so far, that's still 1.6 seconds away from Lertweiler's time, and Lertweiler now goes faster than Lancieri through the first sector. It takes him about 30 odd seconds to do that, so it's a significant chunk of this lap, and another 30 seconds it's a PB for Lertweiler. So on the split,
he's 2 tenths up on the split. Unfortunately, he's done it while he's caught the Ferrari. Now,
which Ferrari
Lancieri.
Is that Gosner?
That's Gosner.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Lancieri improves his time to 142.7, 30 seconds on the clock remaining. What can he do in this final sector? Or is he going to be balked here by the other Ferrari? Unwittingly, I'm afraid, by Manuela Gosner. But he's not that close.
Might even benefit from a bit of a tow across the line, and Lertweiler will stay second, but it is an improvement. A 142.954 represents his best time of the session, but it was that final sector that really did for him.
And may well have actually lost an opportunity there to do better, having to make the pass into an early turn on that lap.
And
so
this is the final tour, unfortunately, for the Swiss. So because he had to get by the Ferrari in the first sector, I think that, confusing that with Lancieri's first sector, which is a personal best, but I don't think it's going to be purple, and I don't think it's going to be blue for Lertweiler. Certainly it's not. It's taken him over half a second to clear Manuel Agostner.
And unfortunately, I think the sign was, as we said earlier in the session, Johnny, the pace was coming at the end here for him. And unfortunately, so did the traffic. So that just didn't fall his way. It looks to me, Lancieri, by the way, goes through the purple sector in sector 2. So he saw the threat and he's got the hammer down. And I don't think Nicky Lertweiler's in a position to be able to respond to that. So personal best, followed by outright best for Gabriele Lancieri. No improvement in either sector for Nicky Lertweiler. So it's going to be the number 8 Iron Lynx Ferrari that takes pole position in the GT3 class for tomorrow's season finale for the Michelin Le Mans Cup here at Portimão.
And that will very nearly complete a clean sweep of pole position through the course of the year. Certainly all of the standard 2-hour race meetings. It has been the number 8 car at the sharp end for each one of those. Barcelona, Paul Ricard, Monza, Spa, and now here at Portimão, as that is confirmed as all 3 cars cross the line to see the checkered flag. The only time the 8 car has not been on pole position was when Julian Andlauer qualified the number 2 Porsche on pole for the first Road to Le Mans race back in August, and Andlauer's put in for qualifying. That's the one exception of qualifying sessions in the whole year when you get free choice of who you put in the car for the first of those 2 races. The second one has to be the bronze, by the way, and again it was the 8 car that did the business there. But they've been changing bronze drivers through the year. It hasn't always been Rino Mastronardi, hasn't always been Gabriele Lancieri, but the thing about Iron Lynx, they can certainly pick a bronze driver.
They most certainly can, but what we are going to see, I've no doubt, if we keep on the grey stuff in the early laps, we're going to see 2 of these 3, if not all 3 cars, very close together in that traffic. And as we keep saying, Johnny, in endurance racing, anything can happen. And a lot of it comes by dint of that traffic factor.
Yep.
It is whether or not these GT3 cars are held up or are holding up each other and LMP3 cars in traffic, and that's when we get the drama that we love, and that is your classification.
So it's the 8 car again that takes a 6th pole of the season, 3 in a row to start with, 3 in a row just being completed here in Portimão as well. 142.680 for Gabriele Lancieri, who is getting quicker and quicker. PZ Obira Zurichsee by TFT taking 2nd place with Nicky Lertweiler's time, and Manuel Agostner 2.3 seconds away from Lertweiler's effort. And 2.3 seconds away from Lancieri's effort. She was much closer than that compared to Nicky Lertweiler. What was it? 1.6 seconds there or thereabouts by the end of the session. So congratulations to all 3 cars that will feature in our little montage, incidentally. And the huge introduction of GT3 cars during the Road to Le Mans event, I think bodes well for potentially the future of this category moving forward, because we always get a lot of interest around the Circuit de la Sarthe event, and then the job of the championship organisers is retaining that for as many rounds possible.
And the other thing to remember is that we're going to see after the next couple of years a shift into ACO rules competition of GT3 machinery. So the entry point for GT3 teams is available right now. You want to come and learn the rule set, you want to come and learn the paddock, all of those good things are available next season to anybody that wants to come and play the game.
Very good point. I hadn't thought about that previously. So it has been virtually a clean sweep for Iron Lynx and car number 8. Let's get some reaction down with the team now with Hayley.
Yes, I'm down here in the Iron Lynx garage, joined by driver of car number 8, Paolo Ruberti. The 6th pole of the season, Paolo. You seem to be quite good at this. Just tell us about your expectations for tomorrow, because they are, it's going to be a mixed class field. What is going to be the biggest challenge, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I have to congratulate to Gabriele. Did a great lap on quali, so we are in pole again. The team always, as always, gave us a very fast car. So tomorrow is, as always, a difficult race because it's a 2-hour race. Everything can happen. Our goal is to win, and then we will see for the championship, for the driver championship, because we already won the team championship.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's the title that is still on offer with the teams, because the 8 car has been so consistently performing through the course of the year, despite a changing driver lineup, the 8 car scores points for itself and drivers separately. And Rino Mastronardi stepping away, Gabriele Lancieri being brought in. So there's still this championship that needs to be decided from a driver's perspective, and maybe that will then result in a decision from Iron Lynx as to who might pilot their car for next year's Le Mans with their automatic invitation, courtesy of another title. Quite a queue forming up at the end of the pit lane, though, ahead of another 15 minutes, and we go from one extreme to the other, Graham, as you were mentioning. 26 cars about to pour their way out onto the Portimão asphalt, a championship that is led by Nielsen Racing on 72 points, but the top 5 teams are all still capable of winning this year's championship. OK, there's not an automatic invitation, but nevertheless, it is so hotly contested, with Tony Wells and Colin Noble, you might say overdue, winning this title. Can they do the business this weekend? They're on 73 from Alexander Matchell and Nicola Veroni on 62 points, and then 2 of the United Autosports teams are still involved in the championship fight as well. Amazingly, despite very different routes towards this, start this round on exactly the same number of points, 51.5.
Which is a remarkable number as well, isn't it? So yeah, we're about to get a conga line of 26 LMP3 cars out onto this magnificent circuit. There are two of the 3 United Autosports cars. I'm hearing we might see 4 next year in the Michelin Le Mans Cup as part of the multi-car effort that emerges from the fabulous Wakefield, West Yorkshire factory. And sadly, I'm hearing that one of the cars we may not see back is this one, and it is one of our favourites. So Auden Gudmundsson, thanks for it, thanks for the season, the Icelandic team, but Auden, I think, has decided that the time he has to put into this, he has to put efforts into other things, so we may be seeing the last race for our Icelandic friends, and that's a source of regrets.
Yeah.
Because they've been fun, and they've been very unlucky, Johnny, not to score a couple of top 10 finishes. They've been, I think, quicker than they think they've been, and let's just a bit of wait and see, isn't there? Back again, the ANS Team JSE Management, the snappily titled team from Switzerland, the 6 car for its 2nd race, I believe, this season, and they're back with us.
Yeah, so some returnees, some interesting changes of driver lineup with teams you wouldn't necessarily put together with drivers, and we always do tend to get this market movement towards the end of the year. Portimão is a great time to audition new drivers, run through potential contracts for the new season. So very similar to the ELMS, really, rather than a natural sort of season drop off when we get to this point. This is where the interest is peaked.
There's lots of faces around in the paddock for the LMS and for Michelin Le Mans Cup. Lots of people having meaningful discussions either in the open or behind closed doors where that's available to them. Great to see the likes of Thomas Laurent in the paddock, and hoping that he can find a seat worthy of his considerable talents after being out of racing in 2021, and certainly no little interest in drivers coming to LMP3 as a route up into higher things. It's one of the reasons we've got for the 2nd time this year Conor De Filippi at BMW.
Under 1 minute to open pit exit for Michelin Le Mans Cup LMP3 qualifying. Under 1 minute. Please remind drivers that any laps we see or which are reported for being done beyond track limits will be immediately deleted.
Same measures as always, but it always surprises me how many people continue to breach the track limits. But then again, they're always on the ragged edge, so we have to give them a little bit of flexibility.
And after a couple of different voices on the radio, it's nice to put on the comfortable cardigan that is Eduardo Freitas.
It fits very nicely, doesn't it, with the build-up to another session. So sounds like he's going to be doing the countdown as the Patrice Lafargue installed for car number 17, EDEC Sport.
It doesn't look real, does it, from that? It looks like a sim track. From that angle,
10,
it just does.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is open for LMP3 qualifying of the Michelin.
He's forgotten the name
of the series.
It's the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Eduardo,
I'd forgot his name briefly as well. I nearly called him Graham. Wochenspiegel team Monschau have brought their familiar livery of the white and black spots, backed by the German newspaper outlet, and WTM powered by Phoenix here once again there. And at this point we can tell you at least some of the starting drivers. I'll probably wait for most of the cars to join the session because otherwise it just gets confusing.
Well, I can tell a couple of new boys that are out there.
Yeah.
Down on the timing and scoring screens, not for the first time, is John Logie. Ian Logie, that is, British driver, Scottish driver, finished the runner-up in the British GT Championship just a week ago, and he's having his second crack at a LMP3 car after trying, or in fact, full season in the Asian Le Mans Series last year with United Autosports. Look if there's any of the other new names. Of course, the number 18 car out there, Milner Motorsports, John Falb. Previous, of course, ELMS champion in LMP3, but more recently a front runner in the Pro-Am side of LMP2, and will be doing double duty this weekend. He's in the 18 Milner car. And who else we've got? Andrew Ferguson, the number 27 Nielsen Racing LMP3 car. Actually not, it's a Nielsen Racing entry. It's 24/7 Motorsports, which is a team that you'll recognise, Johnny. And if you join Johnny for the regular live streams for the Ligier European Series,
oh yes,
you'll recognise the Ferguson brothers as being the pairing that have their own Ligier JSP4. One brother based in the UK, one brother based in Spain, and hopefully we're going to see more of them in an LMP3 car coming back next year. And I'm just looking to see if there's anybody else we've got out there that's a new name for us this weekend. We've got two or three of the Filia Endurance school that has been working with drivers both in Michelin Le Mans Cup, Ligier European Series, Ultimate Cup, elsewhere. Three of them with Team Virage this weekend. That's Jean-Bernard Bouvy, his school that had a delayed start for much of its activities with COVID, but it's now really gaining momentum and finding some real talent out there.
Just to go back to the point about John Falb, in a sense going back to his roots, because I remember interviewing him in the Road to Le Mans paddock in 2016, the first ever Road to Le Mans, when he was with Graf in their 77 car. Now he was also with Graf in the ELMS as well, but he will know about this championship and has done for since its inception effectively. And LMP3s were not even part of the regular series by that point. So welcome back, John. Milner Motorsport and their Duqueine, your chosen mount. Antoine Duquin, who's also on double duty this weekend, although in a much more familiar 37 car in this championship, has been doing so well throughout the course of the year, heading up the hill now, but to be met with traffic, and this is going to be the perpetual problem through the 15 minutes, is that you probably get a good run through a sector, maybe two at best, and there's always the chance though of catching slower traffic towards the end, which could really scupper a potentially good lap time. So it's about patience, it's about good planning from the teams as well, putting you out on a part of the racetrack which shouldn't necessarily affect your lap time, but that is so difficult to predict, particularly because we'll have cars coming in and out of the pits at roughly half distance, probably to take a new set of Michelin tyres.
So first times coming through, the first to top the times is the 21 car, Milner Motorsport, with the driver switching Cruz, and that's an opportune name to use because it's Charlie Cruz that has moved from Team Virage to Milner Motorsport's other car, the 21 Duqueine. It's a Duqueine that tops the times at the moment. It's a 140.7, almost 4/10 up on Jacques Wolf, and the 25 Racing Spirit of Le Mans car. That's the first of the Ligiers, with 6/10 back from that. Maurice Smith in the first of two Cool Racing cars, 69 from the 37. That one sits fourth in the hands of Antoine Duquin, as described just now by Johnny Palmer. The first of the cars into the 142s.
Auden Gudmundsson in the outgoing Team Thor car up to 8th place then with car number 77. Worth picking out. There are 4 Duqueines in the initial top 10, and one of them fastest so far for CR Cruz, as Graham makes the point. And the number 21 car that Charlie currently pilots, heading up the hill to turn 13. Again, a busy part of the racetrack though, where the 37 car of Antoine Duquin is also found. and they will head down the hill through 14. Careful not to run too far out wide on the curb. You can certainly straddle it with the white line right down the middle of the car, but any further out so that all 4 Michelins are off the road, that lap will almost instantaneously be deleted. And there are a number of places around here where it is very easy to push the car a little bit too wide and outside of the circuit track limits.
In fact, Antoine Ducant lost his previous lap, and as he lost it, just completed the next lap and went second. So Charlie Cruz now for Antoine Ducant. The gap is 1.15 of a second, both in the 139s. Just those two and Jacques Wolf under 140 at the moment. As I speak, Ian Logie goes through his second quickest in the Phoenix Racing number 5 car. He's in a 139.2, it's half a tenth back from Charles Cruz.
So Antoine Ducant was briefly ahead of Logie, but then Ian went a little quicker in the Phoenix Racing car number 5 to slot between the two, and those gaps are very small indeed. 54 thousandths of a second, 99 thousandths of a second, then a larger gap of half a second back to John Fowle in the second of the Moulner Duquesnes. Racing Spirit of Le Mans, and Jacques Wolf 5th fastest, with Torsten Kratz in 6th in the WTM powered by Phoenix Duquesne. That's car number 11.
Ian Logie, rather, as a Michelin Le Mans Cup rookie, shares that car, by the way, with Matthias Besch, who'll be joining him for that race, a driver of no small heritage in sports car racing. So Ian Logie at the moment, and is going quicker again this time. Doesn't need to find much to get with and by Charles Cruz on this timing and scoring sheet. It's the 21 Milner car from the 5 Phoenix, 37 Cool Racing car, then the 16 Team Virage car, Miguel Cristobal. He is the first, by the way, of those 3 Filiere Endurance racers on this provisional grid at the moment. Then it's a WTM powered by Phoenix car with Torsten Kratz. Alexander Matschel in the first of the Rinaldi cars sits 6th at the moment. Jacques Wolf is dropping down. He sits 7th. Maurice Smith, Pietro Peccanini, and finishing out the top 10 at the moment is Frank Kraling in the 60 Phoenix Racing car, one of 3 cars being run by Phoenix this weekend.
So Miguel Cristobal at his home race, hails from Lisbon actually, and has competed in the Le Mans Cup previously. In fact, that was last year, also for Team Virage, and also here at the Algarve International Circuit. So favouring those events that are taking place in his home country. With that single race under his belt, though, he at least arrives in an LMP3 with some experience and will know how that car behaves around this racetrack. Previously sharing with Alessandro Ghiretti in the Team Virage car.
Quick times coming at the moment. They're coming from Charles Cruz, they're coming from Antoine Ducant, they're coming from Chris Duval, who's put in a purple sector in the middle sector now, and for the 2 men sitting behind him in the order at the moment. So things are going to start to get to shuffle very quickly at the moment. Looking up and down the timing and scoring screen, there are no fewer than 7 cars on a lap which at their current pace, with the last timing sector they passed, would take pole position here.
So a question of where to look next. Let's concentrate on the cars that are nearing the end. Miguel Cristobal to the top of the times now in car number 16. Remember, these are all bronze-rated drivers, and the difference between the slowest and the fastest can sometimes be vast, but at the sharp end, again, it is hundredths of seconds separating now Cristobal from Alexander Matschel for Rinaldi Racing. Now back to the top goes CR Cruz in the Moulner Motorsport car. Cristobal, Portuguese driver, dropping to second as a result. Then it's Torsten Kratz for WTM powered by Phoenix, but his lap time is immediately deleted. And there's possibly a deletion for Cristobal as well.
Right, Antoine Ducant, though, goes to the top by 0.8 of a second with 3 purple sectors storming along in that 37 Cool Racing car. So from Charles Cruz leapfrogging by 4 drivers that have gone quicker than him, he's now been leapfrogged, and comprehensively so, by Ducant, who's put in a 1:37.8, 0.8 of a second quicker than the next quickest car. So it's Cool and Moulner are the front row sitters at the moment. Ligier from Duquesne, 37 from 21, Antoine Ducant from Charles Cruz.
And the next car across the line will be the 22, which is a little further down. That's Jerry Kraut in the United Autosports car, but concentrating on really turn 15 and who is next across the line, because jumping up to 6th position, Horst Felbermayr. Yes, that Horst Felbermayr for RLRM Sport, car number 15. In the 16 Team Virage car, Miguel Cristobal goes across the line but did not improve that time around, so will stay in third spot. And looking at for the next likely mover, well, Antoine Ducat is on a real flyer here. He already holds on to provisional pole and might be about to improve as Torsten Kratz rejoins him on the front row in the WTM Powered by Phoenix car. CR Cruz will thread the eye of the needle and slot between the two of them. So Cruz getting faster and faster as well. And now something has happened at turn 3, the third of the right-handers, which starts the lap. Maybe a spinner. We'll get news on that in a tick.
It's not, though, going to stop Antoine Ducat from finishing this lap. It's another 2 purple sectors. He finishes the lap, though, after a very poor third sector. Some 4 seconds lost there, so I think he's at a moment. It's a red flag. Ooh. It's a red flag for whatever has happened out at turn 3. We've not seen what's happened there.
And 4 minutes and 18 seconds remain on the clock. Now, this is the point of the day. It's only a stranded car by the looks of things. Car 15 in an awkward position. Horst Felbermayr having gone across the line and gone as high as, I think it was 6th at the time. He's dropped since to 9th position. But Horst Felbermayer's number 15 RLRM Sport car stranded on the curb on the outside of turn 3. Now, were this a free practice session, the clock would continue to tick by. But because it's qualifying, they hit the pause button, and I think over 4 minutes left will mean we get a restart.
I'm completely convinced we absolutely will get a restart. Packed programme here, but there's space enough for recovery. And the marshals here at Portimão, well drilled. Eduardo Freitas is exceptionally proud of this place, and with good reason. The place is immaculate. And after years in the financial crash of the latter part of the last decade, where there were concerns that we might lose this as a motorsport facility, you'd barely believe it now, would you? Smoke emitting from that, just wonder if something's just getting a bit hot.
Yeah, brakes, maybe, yeah.
That's Felbermayr, it is, from the colours of the helmet.
He's not showing any signs of wanting to get away from the car in a hurry, so can't quite understand what the issue is. Arms up in the air, slapped down to his sides.
He slapped down to his sides and lots of dust there. Oh, has the fire extinguisher gone off?
Oh, around his legs, yeah, I've just spotted that in what was a pristine race suit. But yes, if the fire extinguisher goes off, then the car automatically grounds to a halt anyway.
I think the fire extinguisher's fired.
So out of nowhere, perhaps, I hadn't noticed that the originally black and jet black race suit was rather covered in some sort of powder or dust, and it could very easily be fire extinguisher and not fluid, but powder instead, which has gone off, contents, and therefore the car will go no further. So has he accidentally pulled the cord on that, if you like, or has it gone off of its own volition? But yeah, good spot there, Graham, and that could very easily answer the reason why provide us an answer as to why that car can go no further, and the session is briefly halted. That will mean quite a bit of clear up for RLRM Sport overnight to get the car ready for tomorrow morning's race, but thankfully they're not racing today.
Well, let's go through the order as we got that chance, because it'll take just a little wee while to recover that car to safety. In provisional pole position, 37's Cool Racing, 37th Cool Racing Ligier, Antoine Ducat, with a 1:37.879. That is some 0.6 of a second to the good of Torsten Kratz in the WTM Powered by Phoenix Duquesne, the number 11 car, in second position. 21 Mulder Motorsport, Charles Cruz in the Duquesne is a further couple of tenths back from that, having held the provisional pole for much of that session to that point. Team Virage, the top of their 2 cars is the 16 car. Miguel Cristobal is a further, 400th of a second back from Charles Cruz, really close. Alexander Matschel in the Rinaldi car number 66, that car in the 139s, 139 dead almost, but over a second off provisional pole. John Falb in the 18 car, the second the Mulder cars, both those cars in the top 6 at the moment. He's sixth in that Duquesne. Number 5, Phoenix Racing Ligier, that's in the hands of Ian Loggy. That Ligier sits in 7th place. 8th is Tony Wells in the Nielsen Racing number 7 car. Then the RLRM Sport car, the car that's in trouble out there, we think maybe with a fire extinguisher that's fired in the car, whilst Felbermayr stopping out at turn 3. Pietro Peccinini in the beautiful TS Corsa Duquesne. in the number 73 car. That rounds out the top 10.
And now these very cleverly positioned lifting points on all of the cars, and depending on whether it's a GT car or an LMP3, they're cleverly weighted so that there are an exact right point on the length of the car to then, as it's lifted, the balance is more or less perfect, so the marshals don't have to kind of continue to counter that, and it makes recovery to the flatbed a lot easier. So it should mean that car is scooted out of the way very rapidly indeed, and important not to lose concentration here, to stay as close to peak performance as possible, because this will clearly be resumed on a short call, a session that is, well, only now just over 10 minutes old, and with 4 minutes and 18 left on the clock, that's going to be an outlap and a quick one, and that is pretty much it. Yep. Done and dusted. So Antoine Ducat,
there'll be no dramas there at all.
No, I can't see any reason why there might be one. Antoine Ducat in the best position on 0.6 of a second as a lead from Torsten Kratz in the WTM powered by Phoenix Duquesne. Another Duquesne for CR Cruise for Mühlner Motorsport. That looks to be a good decision so far for the American to have slotted into Mühlner Motorsport, because clearly the pace in that car is there. Miguel Cristobal, who has experience of the track and the car, running in fourth for Team Virage. Doors are up on all of the cars, most of the cars in the pit lane, to try and get some airflow, because ambient temperature is still pretty warm here, particularly when you've been in a race car with a very warm 5.6 litre Nissan engine right the other side of the firewall. Yes, it's turned off at the moment, but the heat soak started a few minutes ago.
Just looking further down the timing screen here to see whether or not there's anyone that might profit from this gap that's perhaps out of their regular position. Maurice Smith is one of them.
Yes.
And Maurice Mo is down in 16th position. I'd expect to see him significantly further up the order than that. And I just wonder whether having a bit of a breather, having to think about things, as everybody else loses that bit of momentum, maybe that gives our favourite bearded racing driver the opportunity, heavily bearded I should say, racing driver, the opportunity to gather himself and get out and have another crack, as Horst Felbermayr is brought back to the pits rapidly on the back of a scooter.
Well, that's good that he is safe and well, because when a fire extinguisher goes off and you are presumably at speed, there's not very far for you to run, particularly in one of these closed cockpit cars, and you just need to be able to slow the car down as quickly and as safely as possible. We won't know exactly what has happened as far as that car is concerned until Horst Felbermayr gets back to the pit lane, but as you say, never nice for that to happen. A big old shock before anything else is factored in.
It's that moment of what the heck's happened there.
Yes.
More than anything, really disorienting, really, and you don't want to be disoriented when you're doing 100 plus miles an hour.
Certainly not.
Round a corner.
And he'd been going well, because he just set a sixth best time in the session. A little bit of chatter down there for CR Cruise.
I do hope we see Horst Felbermayr back. He's made a few appearances in ACO Rules Racing in recent years, not many. I think you've probably seen more of him in your talks about 24H series racing. He's been racing one of the KTMs.
He has indeed, yes.
In the fantastic Felbermayr livery. And wouldn't one of these cars look good in those colours?
It would look fantastic. Have we ever had an LMP3 in Felbermayr blue and yellow? No.
I mean, Horst has not raced a prototype.
Information to the pit lane, information to the pit lane. Session will be resumed on a very short call. As soon as the flatbed is out of the track, we will go green.
It's going to be imminently, because we can see that about to happen. Last time I believe he raced a prototype was...
Under 5 seconds to go green.
In winning the 2008 SL3 class in the Radical European Masters. He won the championship in 2008.
Okay.
So it's been some time. He's been looking after the family business. We know that he lost his father, Horst Senior, pretty recently, and I think there's a lot of elements of remembering Dad about Horst's current campaigns, and there's far worse reasons for doing it than that, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yes, I seem to remember it was back in March that sad news. It was a big shock for everyone. March last year, in fact. But it was a huge shock for the family, quite clearly. And been brilliant, nevertheless, as you say, for Horst to be part of the KTM initiative in 24H Series, and maybe some interest being drummed up ahead of next year for the Michelin Le Mans Cup too.
I hope so.
So, a short call it is, and all of a sudden we have a spinner already with the 71 car rotating for Team Virage and rejoining the racetrack. That was Rob Hodes. Was there some contact, or did he just look to avoid?
That was contact with the 21 car.
And in spinning...
Oh, that was Charlie Cruz,
okay.
His previous teammate.
Right, well, maybe some discussion to be had there. I don't know whether for sure whether there was contact.
Be discussing it.
No, maybe not. But the angle we caught it from, I'm still to be convinced whether there was any contact, because the dive planes are still in place.
Okay.
So was it more of an avoidance drive that caused the spin for Rob Hodes? If there was contact, as you say, they'll probably look to avoid that topic for the rest of the meeting. 37's not gone back out. Antoine Ducat thinks he's done enough here and is resting on his laurels to an extent, but they are 0.6 of a second worth of laurels. So,
well, if they're smart, they'll send him.
Yeah. Well,
and give him that opportunity for one lap. An opportunity for one lap.
Okay. Well, 2 minutes to go.
He's got time if he'd left sort of now to get around and start a lap.
It would have to be now, because a flyer takes you 97, 98 seconds, and on a slowish lap or a rejoining lap from the pits, you've got to bolt on at least another 20 seconds, I would think.
Of course, these tyres have cooled on the cars. There's no tyre warmers involved here. I'm not sure.
I wonder whether Ducan and Cool Racing think that's enough at 0.6 of a second. It's a brazen decision.
Tony Wells is the first driver on a flying lap to put in improved sector time. Tony currently sitting down in 8th. They are, remember, championship leaders here. They want as good a showing qualifying as they can get to keep out of trouble. There's a side-to-side contact there. That was Tony Wells.
He ran wide. He ran wide out of turn 8, and it was Christivau who spotted the opportunity. Yeah. But unfortunately, and there's a 25 car is off as well. Unfortunately, as Tony Wells then gathered the momentum back up again, contact was made on the exit of turn 8. That was a little bit clumsy from potentially both drivers involved there.
Looking at the moment to see any dramatic improvements. We've got a minute still on the clock, of course. There's a second lap, they can get a bit more of that heat back in.
Yes.
Maybe that's when we'll see the timing screen light up if it's going to. But a smattering of improved sector times, but nothing is going to shake up the order at the sharp end here.
Daniel Schneider will get onto another lap, as will the 77 Team Thor entry for Auden Gudmundsson. But everybody else has 40 seconds and counting in order to get across the line. So it was wide for Tony Wells.
No, I'm sorry, but that was all on Christivau.
Christivau ran past him, but expected the full runoff on the curbs to still be available to him. And it really wasn't, because in fairness, Tony did not adjust his line. Yes, he was having his own moment. There was no inkling of him turning right on Miguel Christivau. So I think I agree with you that the Portuguese was at fault there.
Christivau, I think, was trying to launch himself onto a flyer for this time around. It's not quite worked.
Well, he knew he had good momentum, and he didn't want to give that up. But unfortunately, when there's contact about to be made, you kind of have to.
Checkered flag is out. And just looking for where improvements are going to come from. It doesn't look like coming from Torsten Kratz. I don't think the pole position is under threat from him. Pretty good first sector, for Christivau. It's not a million miles out the ballpark. It's all going to be about the second sector here for him. That's not good enough. So Christivau is not going to challenge for pole position in this session.
This has been very good session management from Cool Racing, and I wonder who made the call to say to Antoine Ducat, don't go back out again, because the 137.879 should be good enough. And nobody's actually got any closer. It's still 0.6 of a second. Now, Torsten Kratz, CR Cruz, Miguel Christivau, we're expecting all of those drivers through for the final time. 32 will cross the line. Daniel Schneider does improve, a 140.1. Who's next across? It will be Tony Wells, but he does not improve.
John Falby's on a better lap, but it's going to close the gap, maybe lift him up a position or two. It's not a pole position lap here from John Falb. It's a much improved lap, but it's not going to vault him into pole position.
CR Cruz looking like he's going to stay in third position for Mühlner Motorsport. That was a slower mid-sector for that particular car. 2 more expected across the line. Michael Jensen for CD Sport. Rob Hodes, though, is going to pit. Mark Crader about to cross the line, and he does so as well, but no improvement either for the Grain Market Racing man.
Fowl finishes 5th, so he pulls himself up a further spot in the number 18 Mühlner car. So it was a good final lap from the number 6 car. It's the NS management car that's had a smoky, spinny, typey moment.
Jonathan Brossard in the early part of the lap.
Struggled in that session, Brossard.
Yes, in the ANS team JSE management car, another Ligier JSP 320. So everybody else has either already come down the pit lane or is now on the slowing down lap after they pretty much all received the checkered flag. We had 2 callers into the pit lane, but crucially, Anton Ducin, who'd done the hard work in the opening 10 and a bit minutes, setting that 1:37.879, deciding not to go out for the final 4 minutes and 18 seconds, and that has proved to be a very good call indeed.
Indeed it was, and nobody, in fact, apart from John Falb, nobody in the top 10 improved after those cars went back out. And I think in my regular kind of trot down the pit lane, I'm going to be told that was all about tyre temperature. That was just too long a break in the session, and the tyres were losing the temperature they required to be on the upward cycle.
Yes.
That we could see they were before the red flag.
Yeah, and you just can't, you're chasing your tail in order to try and get that back again with 1 out lap and potentially 1 fly out. So Anton Ducin sharing with Josh Skelton once again this weekend, getting the 37 car onto pole position. Congratulations, therefore, to Cool Racing. We'll be hearing from his teammate Josh in just a tick. This will not be the first time we've heard, indeed, from the Cool Racing camp. Nice to see Charmy Lacey offering his applause as well. It's a double pole this weekend for Cool.
I'm joined here by Josh Skelton, driver of car number 37 for Cool Racing. Can you hear me? Yeah. Just one question. It was a very bold move to have pitted Antoine, knowing that, I mean, you set the fastest time, but there was still a chance of the others beating that. Why was that?
Yeah, there was always a chance for them to beat it, but there was only going to be one flying lap, and the tyres weren't going to be up to temperature, and there's going to be traffic, so we weren't going to improve, so it just made sense to save the tyre for the race.
3rd pole of the season. What's your mindset going into the race tomorrow?
Yeah, so unfortunately we've got an 80-second penalty from Spa, so it would be just to push as hard as we can, extend the lead hopefully in the first stint, and then when I jump in, see how far through the pack we can come.
All right, Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all to do with the bronze driver penalty, I think, the pace-related penalty.
Right.
I don't think there's a disciplinary penalty.
I'll need to check the result from Spa to confirm that. We'll do the times at least for the session. 1:37.879 for Anton Ducin from Torsten Kratz's offering of 1:38.496. For WTM powered by Phoenix. Then it was Mühlner Motorsport CR Cruz. Miguel Cristobal for Team Virage. A good result for him. 4th position considering he's not been in the championship since this time last year. Alexander Matchell for Rinaldi Racing. 5th in car 66 from John Falber, Mühlner Motorsport. Their 2nd car. Ian Loggy for Phoenix Racing ahead of Tony Wells, the championship leader, with Colin Noble. So car 7 having to do it the hard way from 8th position on the grid. RLRM Sports, Horst Feldmeyer, despite not finishing the session, did qualify at 9th. And Pietro Peccinini for TS Corsa completing the top 10. Well, that was cut and thrust. Join us for more tomorrow morning for the final round of the season here from Portimão of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We'll see you then. Bye for now.